right, let's have a look into the future with award-winning futurist, researcher, keynote speaker, and really, I'll tell you, all-around good guy. Nikolas Badminton joins us on Canada Now. Nick, great to see you, my friend.
Good morning, Jeff.
Thanks.
Good afternoon.
Now it's afternoon.
Oh, my God.
But in some places where they might be listening right now, it is good morning.
And it's 5 o'clock somewhere, cocktail time.
It's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere. Okay, this week, and I love this. You suggested doing this, and more often than not, these whatever topic we have is directed by your suggestion, and I love this one. This week we're looking at the therapeutic uses of psychedelics.
Yes.
Because the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the use of a key psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms as a therapy for treatment-resistant depression.
Yeah, psilocybin. The core psychedelic at the heart of what we know as magic mushrooms. And what's really interesting about this is, like, this has been used for centuries, right? And obviously during the 60s it got castigated because the kids are going to freak out, man. And, like, they're going to open their minds and they're going to push against government. And this is how they all got classified as illegal. You know, psilocybin, LSD, DMT, MDMA, all these drugs that had potential therapeutic benefits were literally thrown into the illegal drug territory.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Because of the harm it could do society. Now, researchers have really been pushing hard, and now government's starting to think, you know what, the liberation of the ego and using drugs like psilocybin, LSD, and whatever can actually help us treat depression more effectively than other drugs on the market. They can help us come to terms with the end of life and a number of things. It's absolutely magical and fantastical, but also really practical way of helping humans really deal with hard times in their lives.
And look, it's not for one that is, I think I just might be depressed. It's not. It is someone that is really going through it. Like, this therapy comes along with patients that are suffering so much. They've already gone through 2 different pharmacological antidepressant treatments during a current depressive episode. Because it's estimated between 10 to 30% of patients fall into this category. Hundreds of millions of people around the world suffer from these kinds of acute major depressive episodes every year. This is someone that is really far gone and really deep into it.
Yeah.
And this is not a first treatment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, these are people that all the big pharma companies and all their billions of dollars of research haven't been able to crack that nut. And who would have thought that these mushrooms that can grow in, when I was at school, they used to grow on the school field, right, in Somerset in the southwest of England. Yeah. But like, they're literally, you can grow it. You can grow medicine, plant medicine. And go figure, plant medicine is amazing. You know what? Like, we've been caught up in the corporate dollars for too long. I think sometimes we need to look at the shaman and the old worlds to say, hey, maybe there's some solutions there for the modern world.
But are the pharmaceutical companies going to get their hands all over this?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Things like LSD and MDMA are pharmacological, so they come from that world. They just had to, and they're still being used in laboratories, in trials, and whatever for a number of different things. LSD is actually a really good drug to use because it perfectly binds onto the neurons and whatever. My girlfriend's a neuropharmacologist, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
cool conversation. She doesn't do that now, but it's cool conversation.
When is she coming in?
No. But what's really interesting about this is, plant medicine and psychedelics have come to the fore in the last sort of 10, 15 years in everything from, like, complex problem solving, liberation of the ego, people really being able to transcend into new ways of thinking, new solutions for the world, and the betterment of humanity. They're saying that actually psychedelics, like 4,000 years ago, when people were using plant medicine, obviously there's no pharmaceutical companies, that was the birthplace of all modern religion. That's quite controversial.
Interesting.
Think about it, Moses in the burning bush. I wonder what cactus he ate just before he saw that. Right? It's true. I think that we see a lot of evidence through history, but now it's beautiful that it's being applied in a therapeutic context.
Right.
MDMA, for example, I mean, because it boosts serotonin and it puts you into a very sort of deep, loving, empathetic state. people can be counseled through some of the deepest, hardest traumas that they've ever dealt with, that they couldn't even think of in a normal sort of sober state, as it were, right? So it's absolutely beautiful, and I think that this kind of research and having these available in a therapeutic context legally is awesome. There's already groups all over Canada that secretly use this as part of therapy.
Now, see, that's what I was going to ask you, because I was going to ask you, are trials for this going beyond the U.S.? Is it coming into Canada?
Yeah, Canada's been doing it for a long time.
On the down low, though.
Yeah. There are there's dozens of academics, and there's dozens of therapists in cities across Canada and across the US that prescribe, in quotes, these kinds of drugs to help people in ways that they can't be helped. And because we've known for a long time, it's just that the administrative authorities said you can't do that, it's not tested and whatever. And you know, in the shamanic worlds, and today and back in the past, they weren't tested. They were tested on humans, and you know what? Humans elevated their minds. They solved, medical problems, and things like ayahuasca and iboga and whatever are being still used in jungle and retreat contexts today with huge positive effects.
Okay, so we talked about how this isn't a first treatment for a patient that is so depressed, that is so far down the line, almost to a point of no return.
Yeah.
The equivalent of, hey, do we have any Tylenols in the house?
Yeah.
No, but we got Tylenol 3s. All right, take half.
Right.
Is there some kind of an equivalent where one can take a fraction of this therapy and apply it to a depression that is not as severe?
Yeah, I know a lot of people that microdose psilocybin.
Microdose, exactly. Yeah.
Microdosing psilocybin, LSD, mostly psilocybin these days. And there have been companies popping up online to deliver, tablets, and these aren't legal companies, and they shouldn't be doing it, right? Under the eyes of the law. These doses, and people are saying, it's like having a psychedelic coffee. Just something that just like lifts the mood and liberates you from your brain working a certain way. You don't get the hallucinogenics. You don't go into that state.
Right.
And people have said that this has just completely revolutionized how they live their life, liberating them from depression.
Yeah.
Liberating them from anxiety and self-doubt, like breaking through anger, changing family dynamics. What's not to like about this kind of thing,
Yeah. Isn't this a therapy or something like this therapy applied for detoxification?
Yeah, so there are some. So when people are heavily addicted to opiates, and especially things like heroin, there have been therapies undertaken using heavier psychedelics. Ayahuasca, which comes from the Amazonian rainforest in Peru, and that's like a viscous, disgusting tasting tea that puts you in along with a shaman. You journey for 8 or 9 hours. You purge. And using that and similar roots like iboga is used in Africa and other places. It purges you. It helps you go deeper. They're active. The active drug is dimethyltryptamine, DMT, the strongest psychedelic known to man. Our brain produces it naturally in the pineal gland, which is our third eye. Right, it just doesn't produce it in any great quantity, unless when we die it does. That's why the long white light, right? The long white tunnel. Anyway,
all right.
Yeah. But like these, they put you into this deeply empathetic, retrospective look at your life, look what you've become, like the death of the ego, and people have walked away and have had they don't go back to heroin after taking ibogaine, which is a derivative of iboga, or after doing 3-day ayahuasca retreats. People like Dr. Gabor Mate out in Vancouver was doing stuff with ayahuasca. If you can solve heroin addiction with this kind of thing, like a huge amount of people, like 30-40% of people, like never ever went back to it. it really saves people's lives. It saves families. It heals trauma. Incredible.
But the book is still out, right? Like, we'll know in about a year or two how effective this therapy really is when all the testing is done and the results are in.
Well, the results are already in. It's really effective. It's just that the government likes to put their rubber stamps on things, right?
So is that the year or two that we speak of? Like,
Yeah.
do you think that a rubber stamp will go on this?
Yeah. A rubber stamp will go on to everything from like ketamine, MDMA, the use of DMT, the use of psilocybin. Yeah, absolutely. Within 5 years, all of them will be available in a sort of prescribable form.
Okay, but if this therapy gets out there, how many other therapies or prescriptions would it nullify that would put a big dent into pharmaceutical companies? Because I think the leader of the U.S. Would be looking at it from a financial point of view and whose pockets he could actually line or help out with this sort of thing. And I think if it puts his friends in debt, I don't think he's going to turn his key on it.
Well, the more the better, right? I mean, look at what's happened with Johnson & Johnson, Oklahoma, and the people behind OxyContin. They're going bankrupt, and like those entire lines of businesses dying because they're not good for humans. They're addictive, right? OxyContin is hugely addictive. Do you know how addictive DMT is? It's not. How addictive psilocybin is? It's not. How addictive LSD is? It's not. How addictive THC, like the active compound in weed? It's not. They're not addictive. But pharmaceutical companies, can create everything from like, tablets to help you sleep to whatever, and they're just hugely addictive, right?
Yeah. All right. So hopefully this is something we can expect if it's going to help a lot of people.
It's already there in the underground. It's gonna when it becomes mainstream and we can help everyone that really likes to look to more formal ways of delivering therapy and drugs into society. I think it's going to be a beautiful thing. And then people are going to be trying to get hold of it so that they can like mega dose it and then do some really freaky stuff.
Well, let's hope that's not going to happen.
But that's another conversation, Jeff.
Yeah, that'll be a conversation we have in the future. Check out NikolasBadminton.com, futurist researcher, keynote speaker, Nikolas Badminton. Nick, it's always a pleasure, man. Thanks for doing this.
It's so enjoyable, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, take care, man.